Does your TBR have any Irish in it? Well, now it could. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am taking you through some of the Irish books coming out this year that I genuinely cannot wait to get my hands on. Some of these are going to be brand new authors to me. Some of these I've already tried and tested them and I have fallen in love with their work. And there's also a couple of debut authors on here for you to try out as well. I've tried to span across a couple of genres, so I haven't just kept it to the ones that I would enjoy reading, for example, romance or contemporary fiction. There's also a couple of thrillers in here as well that you might want to go and check out. First one on the list is a historical fiction, and that is Long Island by Colm Tóibín. This is going to be the follow-up book to Brooklyn, which came out a couple of years ago, and there is also a film starring Saoirse Ronan, and I absolutely loved that book, so I have got very high hopes for Long Island. As with Brooklyn, this is following Eilish and her husband Tony, and they are now living in a small little town in Long Island with Tony's 4 siblings all surrounding them. This book is set in 1976, so Eilish is now in her 40s. She has 2 teenage children with Tony, but she's still feeling a little bit like an outsider when it comes to New York. She still feels the call of home, and she still feels a little bit more Irish than she does American. Things are going okay between Eilish and Tony until one day an Irishman knocks on their front door and says that his wife is pregnant with Tony's child. He refuses to raise the baby, so when it is born, he is going to deposit it on the Fiorelli's front doorstep. And it's what Eilish decides to do and what she refuses to do that is going to make this book a hugely exciting read. An Irish release this year that I genuinely cannot wait to read is My Favourite Mistake by Marian Keyes. This is going to be a follow-up to Anybody Out There, which is one of the Walsh sister books and follows Anna, who is the second to youngest of the Walsh sisters, I think. Anna is now living in New York and she has basically the picture perfect life. She has a high-flying and successful job as a PR agent. She has got a really supportive partner, but this isn't making her happy. So she decides to return back to Ireland and escape all of the problems that she has while she's in New York and start working as a PR agency for a small little hotel on the coast of Ireland. It turns out that this is not the job that she had expected or hoped that it would be, and all of the success and all of the support that she had in New York, it turns out she's kind of been taking it for granted. I have absolutely loved Marian Keyes' books recently. The Break is one of my favourite books of hers, and this came out about 5 or 6 years ago, so I'm genuinely hoping that it's just going to continue an upward curve here. Another book that I cannot wait to try out is This Is How You Remember It by Catherine Praviska. She is the author of None of This Is Serious, which was the group book for the Irish Readathon last year, and I have got really high hopes for this one. It's about a young girl whose family gets a computer when she is 9 years old, and this opens her up to a world that she had never imagined. She's a huge fan of a kind of a club pet situation, like an online pet store, pet ownership game, but she doesn't really understand why all of the friends that she's made online aren't using their real names, but are hiding themselves behind aliases. As she gets a little bit older, she starts to discover pornographic material and very adult material that she's slightly too young to get encapsulated by. And she also has her first ever kiss captured on camera and shared online. And this is going to be a really great discussion about opening children to the ideas of the internet far sooner than they should be, and the moderation of content that we're putting in front of them, and just how big of an influence being online can have in your life. If you really enjoyed the movie What Happens in Vegas, you are really going to enjoy Hitched by J.F. Murray. This is about Kate, who is in Vegas with her fiance Norman, and they are about to get married when she bumps into her ex-boyfriend Trevor, who is a DJ in one of the clubs there. They end up on a bit of a drunken night out, which ends up with them getting married. Kate is actively trying to put this off so that she can marry her dream man, but Trevor is absolutely adamant that this is going to work out. So he says that before he will sign any divorce papers, Kate has to go on at least 3 dates with him to give their marriage an actual chance. I'm so intrigued by the concept of this because I really love when two people are just kind of pushed together and then forced to kind of work out a situation that they've put themselves into, especially when it's got a little bit of a romance in it. So I am really interested to see how this one is going to go. If you loved Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, then you definitely have to check out Whatever Happened to Birdie Troy by Rachel English. This is a dual timeline book, so it's set now in Dublin and also in the early 80s, also in Dublin. And it follows a book called The Diamonds with the front woman Birdie Troy. They burst onto the scene with their hit debut single, and then as soon as the song came out, the four women just completely disappeared. Now, Stacey Nash is a podcaster and she is looking into the disappearance of the entire band. Even though they came out before she was born, she has been so fascinated with what happened to them and their story. But as problems start to rise up in Stacey's personal life, she starts to dig deeper and deeper and get more and more engrossed in the world of the Diamonds and what actually happened to Birdie Troy. I loved Daisy Jones and the Six, so I am really hoping that this is going to be a kind of a similar vibe here, and I cannot wait to see what Rachel has in store. Next up is The Amendments by Niamh Mulvey. This one sounds so interesting, especially if you are interested in learning anything about Ireland's social history. It's about Nell and Adrienne, who are living in London and are about to have their first baby together. Adrienne is super excited because this means a new start for her life, but Nell is not so excited about it. The couple have gone to couples therapy to discuss this, and it turns out that Nell has already been a mother before, and she is now worried about what this is going to mean for the rest of her life, especially because she hasn't returned back to Ireland ever since, and she hasn't been in contact with her mother since. However, the two of them do go back to Ireland and face the demons from Nell's past and also reunite with her mother. And the book also takes place back in 1983 when the women's rights movement was starting to kind of take course in Ireland, and also in the year 2000 when the grip that the Catholic Church had on Ireland was starting to very slowly loosen. It didn't really take effect until about 2015 or so, but you can definitely start to see the strains already become a little bit looser. I absolutely love reading about Ireland's social history and especially women's issues such as these, so I think this is going to be such an entertaining read. A debut author worth checking out this year is Linda Maron, and I am so excited to get Last Chance in Paris read. This is about Claire and Ronan, whose marriage is going through a bit of a tough spot at the moment. So Ronan decides that he is going to take his wife on a weekend whirlwind trip to Paris. Claire's a little bit apprehensive because she doesn't see how just one weekend is going to paper over all of the cracks that are appearing. But when they intermingle with some other people who have kind of taken refuge in Paris, such as a big Hollywood producer who is living with a lot of regrets in their life, and a student from Boston who is here to basically escape the stress that they are going through back at university. There's also a Ukrainian woman who has come over basically in search of a new life, and a woman from Dijon who is looking to start over and to right a couple of wrongs that have gone on. When all of them come together, something truly magical and extraordinary is about to happen, and I am so intrigued to find out what that is. Another debut author to check out is Richie Craven, and this is Spirit Level, which is an absolutely phenomenal read. This is about Danny, whose best friend Nudge dies in a car accident when the two of them are coming home from a night out one evening. It turns out that Danny can see Nudge's ghost and can talk to him and interact with him, but only when Danny is starting to get slightly drunk. The two of them then team up to decipher why Nudge is still hanging around, if there is unfinished business that needs to be attended to, and how they are going to basically get Nudge from this side into the afterlife where he should be. This book also does really well with men's mental health and the struggles that a lot of men can go through, and I genuinely think this is one that everybody needs to read. It has a lot of heart to it, but it also has so much humor in there. If a dual timeline book is for you, then I definitely recommend that you check out A Maid on Fifth Avenue by Sinead Crowley. This is about Annie, who is running away to escape something that has happened in her past, and knows that in 1920s New York, Irish maids are basically like gold dust. If you say that you are Irish and that you want to work as a chambermaid, you're basically hired on the spot. So she heads off west and is taken in by the Cavendish family to be their maid. And while she is there, she also meets a young Italian woman named Elena who's working in the same industry. But just as they are about to get closer together, something from Annie's past happens that brings her screaming back to on the road again. Then, about 100 years later in post-pandemic Ireland, Emer is working in a hotel in West Kerry, and her and Annie's lives intermingle and intertwine in a way that nobody was expecting it to, but it turns Emer's life completely into turmoil. I love historical fiction books, and I've heard on the grapevine that this has got a little bit of a sapphic element to it, so I am genuinely excited to see where we're going to go here. Another Irish debut to look out for is Habitat by Katrina Shine. I am so intrigued by the concept of this book. It follows the residents of an apartment block in Oslo, and all 7 of them are displaced while the apartment block starts to basically fall apart around them. Not only is their home falling to pieces, but some of them, their personal lives, their businesses, all of these are also kind of starting to shatter. I am so intrigued to see how these lives are going to intertwine and intermingle, but also what the effects of their home basically being destroyed is going to have on them. A thriller that sounds genuinely so exciting is In Her Place by Adele Coffey. This follows Anne, whose mother has just passed away, but she has dedicated her entire life to being her mother's carer. And Justin, whose wife is in a coma and is not looking to pull out of it. Anne and Justin meet each other on the street one day and are basically instantly drawn to each other. They have a whirlwind romance and they decide to move in together into Justin's place as he has a little girl and they don't want to uproot her entire life. Anne's life is starting to finally fall into place and everything is starting to look up for her, except that Justin gets a call one day to say that his wife Deborah is starting to come around and has woken up from her coma. Anne, however, feels like she is entitled to the life that Deborah has left behind, and she is not going to let it go without a fight. Also coming out in 2024 is Hello Zoey by Sarah Crossan. This is going to be one of Sarah Crossan's adult books and it's going to be written in prose as opposed to her YA books, which are generally written in the form of poetry. This is about Dolores, whose marriage to David has been a little bit stagnant, but she feels like she is prepared for anything that's going to come her way. Until she's clearing out the garage one day and discovers that David has bought an $8,000 AI sex bot named Zoey. This brings out a very jealous and violent streak in Dolores, who was really not expecting to have found this doll. But things start to get a little bit more interesting when Zoey and Dolores actually start to have a conversation with one another. I am so intrigued by how this book is going to go. The concept of it sounds absolutely bananas, but I'm really interested to see what is going to happen in it. Last up is a YA book named 4 Eids and a Funeral by Adiba Jagadar and Farida Ibika-Ame. These two are best friends. You can see it on their Instagram that they hang out all the time. So I feel like a book between the two of those was just an inevitable collaboration. This is about Tiwa and Saeed, who used to be best friends, completely inseparable, but they haven't spoken in years. Unfortunately, the Islamic center in their local town has burned down, and the two of them have to put their differences aside so that everything can get back to normal and so that the community can celebrate Eid again. But is it just going to be the Islamic center that's going to be repaired, or is their friendship not only going to repair itself, but also turn into something a little stronger? Those are all of the books by Irish authors coming out in 2024 that I genuinely cannot wait to get my hands on. Have I tempted you with any of those, or is there another book coming out in 2024 that you have got your sights set on? If you'd love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave me the green heart emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.